All right, everybody. Wow, this is the first time I've ever had a mother-daughter duo on the channel, and I'm very excited because Christine Goerke and her daughter Mags are here. Christine, you have had a 30-plus year career. You've sung at some of the most craziest opera companies in the country, the Metropolitan Opera, the Houston Grand Opera. You've sung at all the major opera houses. You are famous. As it were.
I'm opera famous. I'm not sure if that counts.
And we have Mags here, who's also a huge gamer. She has a Hollow Knight poster behind her, so you know she's going to be our Sherpa. I will help. She will help me help you. And we're really excited about this. I know that she cajoled you into doing this, so I've been hounding you for about 6 months, I think a year, to get this done. So I'm very excited. So I don't know if you know this, but I have a beard. And every time I shave it, people freak out because I look like human Shrek, and it scares people. So I have to find products that help me to keep this area clean and looking great. Turns out Manscaped is actually great for removing pesky facial hair, to keep everything clean so that you don't look like this. Hang on a second. Now that's better. I'm really hyped because Manscaped has sponsored this video, and it's a brand I literally use nearly every day. I've been looking for a little shaver that would help me with the non-beard bits of my face. This part, and the Handyman has been an awesome option. It has a unique dual blade, a standard foil shaver, and a long hair leveler blade. And you can use this thing on facial hair that's been growing for up to 3 days. Also, I have pretty sensitive skin, and the Handyman features skin-safe technology that actually helps reduce nicks and cuts. As you can see, not a cut in sight. Not to mention the fact that it's waterproof, which helps me clean up really fast with a quick rinse under the sink, and I can go off and start my day. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that the Handyman is really small. It's compact, it fits super well in the hand, and it's airplane safe, so you can bring it on the go if you're on a trip, or if you need to get through security, you just have that in your bag and you're good to go. This lasts up to 60 minutes on a single charge, which means that you can use this for multiple shaves. And right here's a little battery indicator, which will let you know when it's starting to run low and you need to top up on the charge. I have to say I was always a little bit on the fence when it came to Manscaped, but after trying another one of their products and now trying this one, this is such an awesome piece of equipment for my arsenal of trying to keep my face clean, tame, and pleasant to look at for myself and for others. I think it'd be great for a first-time shaver and certainly for a mountain man with a beard like mine. And actually, if you go to manscaped.com and use the code MarcoMeeple at checkout, you'll get 20% off your own purchase of the Handyman, and I very much recommend it. I'm very happy with mine. Back to the video. Obviously, your career as a soprano has spanned all sorts of different repertoire, so I think you're going to bring a lot of interesting stuff to this conversation. But I want to slow it down and kind of go back to The Legend of Zelda, which I'm sure you, I don't know, do you know about The Legend of Zelda?
Yeah, but I'm like way back when Nintendo first started, because I'm like way old school.
Well, that's perfect, actually, because the first piece we're going to be listening to is from Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time came out in 1998, so was Max even born? Were you born?
Nope.
She was
I was not there.
Wow. Okay. I don't quite know, Max. How in the gaming lexicon are you?
I've been really into Elden Ring. I'm trying to get more into the classics as well.
You're a gamer through and through at this point.
Yeah, I tried. I think so. There's a lot of people who probably dispute that with the whole, you know, I haven't played the earlier Zelda games kind of a
Whatever,
thing.
I mean,
but
that doesn't matter. But
yeah,
you're a gamer. You would identify as a gamer.
Yeah.
This is Zelda's Lullaby. does that make you feel?
Well, my daughter's here, so she'll roll her eyes as hard as she possibly can. But the rocking motion of the entire thing, I mean, I literally am sitting there thinking about when she was a baby and I was just trying to walk around holding her and rocking back. I was almost doing it. I don't know if I was while we were watching it. But there's something really beautiful and very simple and heartfelt about it. I laugh because I right underneath it, unfortunately, I didn't mean to look at the comments. Never read the comments, but I read them. The very first thing somebody said, this means a lot to me. We're going to walk down the aisle to this. When something is simple and it's beautiful and it sticks, it becomes part of your musical and emotional memory forever. And that's the kind of feeling I got from that.
It's an ocarina and it's in a soprano range and stuff. Like, how important do you think a simple melody is truly for like emotional connection?
Ooh, I can get all Wagner-y on you. This is going to be cool. So one of the coolest things about what I do, for those of you who don't know anything about opera, please come see us. We're kind of cool. I do all the Bugs Bunny, Spear, Magic Helmet. I sing all of that stuff. And so the guy who wrote that stuff is Richard Wagner. Wagner, people talk about, and, you have to sit there for 16 hours. But one of the coolest things that he did, the things that are attached to certain characters, certain themes. In German, they're called Leitmotifs. And they're basically just snippets of melody or snippets of music that are absolutely attached to something in a story. This, to me, functions exactly the same way. I mean, it's the same thing with John Williams, which I'm such a John Williams geek forever. He does this all the time. So you all know this device already. So let's take Star Wars. You all know what the Imperial March sounds like because when the bad guy comes in, what it sounds like. You can sing it probably right now. And if you're not singing it right now, you failed. I'm sorry. But, but it's the same kind of thing. When you hear this sort of thing, it absolutely draws you into that moment, that character, that part of the story.
So in video games, motifs are basically we'll listen to some stuff later that is directly connected to specific bosses. I mean, Mag said that, she's been playing Elden Ring, and Elden Ring's boss themes, as a prime example, each of those bosses have specific themes that play when you are fighting those bosses. Mm-hmm. So you could interpret those as being part of, the theme of the character, but they are also very much rooted in the theme of the boss. And there's countless examples of that Wagnerian, Puccini, classical music approach to this music. And in truth, this music is no different than the music that you and I have both sung and Mags grew up listening to on purpose or on accident. And so Mags, for you, what is it like to hear Zelda's Lullaby? I'm sure you know the theme, but what does this make you feel?
Since I've played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom they have been my favorite games for a long, long time. I've heard the Ocarina of Time version, and I've never played the game. So it's almost kind of more solemn in the way it's more simplistic, because it's an earlier Nintendo game, but it still sits the way I relate it to Zelda and all of the cutscenes I've seen in Breath of the Wild, and how solemn it is and how sad it is, but still how just generally melancholy. I really appreciate Zelda's Lullaby a lot more than I used to, I think. And also just the recognition of the motifs they put in with a lot of the music that isn't using that song. And I'm I know that. This has to do with this. It makes me really excited.
Well, it's such an interesting experience for both of you because you're both coming at it from a very different perspective. Mags, you've played the game, so you have the emotional connection to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and these characters. And Christine, this is the first time you've essentially heard this, and so it's interesting how, and this is something that I would talk about a lot actually, is that you essentially created the context of rocking your child, and that's a really beautiful thing. And that's one of the things that I think video game music itself, yes, in context, it's such a wonderful experience to feel and discover and learn music, much in the same way that someone goes to see an opera and they discover Wagner and the Valkyries and whatever. We attribute that then when we go off and listen to it on our own. But there is something so beautiful about then taking those motifs and those themes and then listening to them and creating our own context around our own life. And then how they double that, because now I bet you, Christine, if you went and played Zelda, you would hear this music and you would think, wow, this reminds me of my raising my children, and wow, it's so much much more poignant in the game experience as well. So taking the in and out of context is such a fascinating. I used to be very anti-context, and I used to be like, well, this music deserves to, be on its own. But there's actually so much power when you listen to it in its proper format, and then also take it and listen to it on its own and create its own little dimension. So that's cool. That was just a nice little softball for you, Christine. We're going to get into it here pretty soon. So I just wanted to give you a little toss there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So one of my favorite songs is from a game called Nier. This is called Kindness Salvation. It's a strophic piece in that the music is the same, but the words change. And I know you know all about strophic pieces, as do I. And this is sung by my wonderful friend Amy Evans, and her tone is just so gentle and so I don't know. I'm really intrigued to hear what you think about this. So upon first listen, I know that song intimately, but what do you both, what was your takeaway from that piece?
It was really just like chilling. And I don't know what happens I rely a lot on context for music since, I play a lot of the games. I'm trying to find some other music I've listened to relate it to, but it's kind of unique and really unique in the vocals. I was trying to find out in my head what language it was. I'm guessing, is it Japanese?
No, it's actually a made-up language called the Chaos.
I was gonna say, because it doesn't... Okay, I was really confused. I was like, is this German? This sounds a little German. This might be Japanese. It sounds a little Japanese. I don't know. And the whole time, I was just like, I don't know if a state of shock or sadness or bewilderment follows that song, but that's what I get from it.
I started doing the same thing, wondering what language this was, and then I thought, it actually doesn't matter. To me, I got a feel, this is going to sound totally crazy, it felt like something Gaelic but with the Bridgerton treatment. Do you know what I mean? Like updated Gaelic. And it was, I in my head, I pictured sort of a montage and nostalgia. I don't know what's happening here, but that's what it felt like to me.
Emmy created the Chaos language for the series of games, and it's essentially an amalgamation of multiple different languages that are mixed together. And
like the Minions.
Yeah, like the Minions, yes. There's one song, Voice of No Return, that is literally could be French, but it's mispronounced French, but it's just a bunch of different words put together that are essentially gibberish, but not the Chaos language. And what I find interesting about this, it could be a barrier to entry. And I was thinking about it and relating it to opera, and it's like, well, so much of opera for people is such a barrier to entry because it's in foreign languages, because of this and that or the other. But in reality is that here we have a prime example in video games where it doesn't really matter what's happening. What matters is that we feel, or that we don't understand it, because what matters is that we are feeling whatever it is.
I agree with you. And I think I only went there for a moment or two, because in the end, I started wondering, and then I thought, I don't think I really care. And then I just got really caught up in the colors that are so unique about her voice. The line was beautiful, and it was, again, simple and almost folky in a way. It wasn't overly fussy, but it just sort of allowed me to go into my own space to sort of have a bit of nostalgia for myself as well. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
I think too, it's also interesting that, strophic songs are not new. And in fact, they're quite old, but there's something about hearing it in a modernized context of the last 6 years where it's like, okay, this is still a valid form of communication and delivery. We have these simple strophic, and strophic means that the music underneath stays the same, but the words change. And actually, I think in this case, both the words and the music were the same, but it wasn't a loop. Point being that these sort of traditional processes that we as singers and performers have basically been dealing with for the last, God, how many years? I mean, 80, 100, 200 years.
80, 100 billion, jillion, I think, is what the number we're looking
all
for.
All that stuff is still so valid and can still be such an emotional experience. And I think that, I was really eager to share this, not only because Emmy is such a dear friend, but her voice is just so unique and so... It's so
plaintive,
light and yeah. So, speaking of, I wasn't going to play this one, but there's a game that's out called Arknights, and they recently had a story beat called Zwillingsstürme in Herbst. And this piece was actually composed by a YouTuber, a YouTube musician who, musician who also posts their content on YouTube. And the company, it's a Chinese company, Hypergriff, took their work and actually put it in the game. And it's a really cool... well, I won't give it away. I kind of want to see, Christine, especially if you can catch it. Let's just say that it borrows from a very, very famous classical piece. If you can't catch it, it's okay, because I'll let you know. Do you know what that is?
Do I know which one that is? That's Schubert Erlkönig.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's fabulous.
This was recorded 10 months ago, and it was just featured on a concert that sold out. It was like 600,000 people over the course of, I'm pretty sure it was an insane amount in Shanghai, I believe. They sold out within 64 seconds. And this was played live. So here we are in the year 2024, and here we are referencing something from, I forget when Schubert wrote it, 18 something, but what do you think of that?
That's so freaking cool. Look it is the sincerest form of flattery, right? And imitation, borrowing. It's so cool because to me, anytime I get to hear even a tiny bit of something that has come before and it brings it to a new generation, and then I hear from people, I don't like classical music. Like, yes, you do. Turns out you do. And then you get, as we were talking about, some people are snobby.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people. But, those people, you're like, okay, well, you can get as snobby as you want, except here's your music. Music is music. And if it is exciting, man, Schubert, Erlkönig, okay, well, it's all going to be out there in a second anyway. Schubert's not so much my favorite, but there are songs that are epic, and this is one of them. So my daughter doesn't know what this is either, but it's a song. It's a father trying to rush his child. His child is sick, and the Erlkönig death is coming for this child. The father is rushing through the night, trying to get, on the horse, trying to get the child to safety to somebody who can help him. And the Erlkönig is saying, very sweetly, you should come with me. It'll be so beautiful. I'll be able to do all these wonderful things. And in the end, when the child keeps saying, I'm afraid. And he's like, well, if you won't come, then I will take you. And it's like, Urgh! So it is so cool. And to hear that mixed in with this, I must admit to you that being the Wagner dork that I am, I heard Zwillings and Stürmer. I immediately went to Valkyrie, and I was like, see? And I was like, oh, it's going to be Valkyrie, but it's not. Cool.
I'm glad you're excited. In my brain, I was like, I have to play this. I think, I think the modernization of classical music, and what's funny is that I used to be like that. I used to be like, well, I remember I did a couple like reinterpretations with lyrics for like Vesela Juba for like a MailChimp, and I was like, oh, I'm selling out so hard. But then I was like, is this selling out, or is it just like bringing it to a modern audience, And also, who cares? I don't know. Well, Mags, how do you? Obviously, you just learned the context of that in terms of our classical world. But like, what did you think about that piece?
I know nothing about Arknights. I'm gathering all of this from looking at the cover of the song. I don't know, like, what style of gameplay this is. This just sounds like a really badass boss fight.
It is a boss fight, actually, of this.
Okay. I was like if I was like in the middle of like a fray there, like some sort of whatever in the game, that would have me really, really into it. And I really, really liked it. I think it was a really cool piece.
It's a shocking game because it's a tower defense game where the whole goal is to get from point A to point B and stop people from getting into your lane, essentially. And then it's a visual novel. In other words, you're reading it and then things are happening on the screen. But it's not your typical gameplay, and it's really interesting that the care and attention to detail for music, for a lot of gacha games especially, but especially Arknights, is very interesting, and the callbacks to classical music. This isn't the first time that they've done this. They've also done it for The Flight of the Bumblebee and a few others, and so they've had these music themed events that are always my kryptonite. It's cool. Anyway, I was excited to share that. Speaking of opera and classical music, and this whole episode is based around this, but there's one piece that I am just always blown away by every time I hear it. It's basically the Verdi Requiem. And Christine, you've sung that a lot, haven't you? Yeah, you have.
I've only sung it once.
Only once?
Well, I live someplace between the soprano and the mezzo part now, so I think I always have. That's the general problem with that one, but I love it.
This is from a live concert for the game Lost Ark, and it's called Nostalgia of Phantasm.
슬픔, 불안, 절망, 공포. 아스텔지어가 시작되리라.
Christine, how difficult do you... how hard do you think that is?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, but I want to do it. I was sitting here going, I want to do that. It's amazing. I don't know that it feels like it's hard, but I mean, to me, that just feels like you'd sort of be like riding a wave on top of that astounding amount of sound. It just keeps building and building and ebbing and flowing, and it just, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I mean, it seems ridiculous to use a word like epic, but that is the sense. You know, it can't be more epic than that. And the human voice it's epic. It's epic. And that many people coming together. No, I realize that there's amplification here, but just the idea of bodies being able to make that kind of noise and generate that kind of excitement and that visceral thing where your hair stands up, that's astounding. I have no idea what the hell this is about, but I want to play it.
I don't know how that much sound could come out of that small of a person, but that was astounding. I think my favorite kind of music tracks are, for video games at least, are those with background vocals, because I love how they support if there is a main vocalist, and it makes everything so intense and like, I don't know, it really puts you in there. Like I don't know specifically, you know, I don't know the details. I'm always stuck on that about not knowing the details of the thing, but whatever I would be playing again, like last time, I would be, I think, even more so into this, like trying my hardest, we got this kind of a thing, like This is like the most epic battle that has ever happened, and we're giving it our all kind of a thing.
Well, it's interesting again because you're both saying the same thing in your own words, which is so cool. But you know, what I find really cool about this piece in particular is that raw, unadulterated, essential, like not musical violence, but musical like heroicism that comes through. And again, you know, Christine, you talk about the wave, and that's exactly right. I mean, it's just a constant forward undulating propulsion that really we can't help but be carried away by it because it is essentially just purely badass. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like it's the kind of track where you listen to it and you're like, you know, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It takes you in a... I asked if it was okay to swear.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah is acceptable for this. Absolutely.
and it's cool, and it's a satisfying experience. And also, you know, I wanted to bring this to you especially because I know that you've sung with some of the largest ensembles in the world, in terms of sheer number of people, and in term, you know, Wagner. I mean, I know that modern Wagner is different than, you know, Bayreuth Wagner, you know, in terms of orchestration. But I mean, certainly orchestras this size are not uncommon for you to sing with. I would, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually, I think the biggest is between Elektra and the Ring Cycle, and that's around 110 pieces. But it was very interesting. You brought up the Verdi Requiem, and I totally hear the influence that you were talking about with this. But I heard something in there, and I've got my iPad in front of me, and I dorked right out because I had to try and find the music, and I found it. I was like, is that the blah from blah? I heard a theme in the bass that was going through the entire thing. That is the bass theme from the Mozart Requiem Confutatis.
Really?
And I was like, oh!
Yeah, little references. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And again, I mean, this is like such a legitimate piece of music that if you programmed it on a stage today, I don't think anybody would say anything about it besides, holy crap, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And in fact, if anybody's planning on going ahead and programming this, I am available.
Just as, you know, other way of, you know, opera and classical music into the new generation in whatever ways that, you know, the new generation enjoys now. I love the opposite. I love it. Even if it is, you know, the classical parts of video game music. But you can still have, like, adults and older people who don't play video games enjoy that music. They wouldn't know none the wiser that this is from a video game. I've done that to my mom before. I'm like, hey, listen to this. And I'm like, would you expect this to be from a video game? And she's like, no.
I admit, I really am beyond pleasantly surprised, but I am also kind of blissfully ignorant, because if I knew that I could get lost in something like this, you'd never see me again and I would never go to work. Like, where is she? I don't know. I saw her in the back of her closet with her...
We already know you love Roblox, Christine. You think
Yeah, we had that conversation.
All we need is for you to get on a PlayStation. You're done. You're gonna
oh my God, yeah. It's going to be ugly.
Up your hat.
Well, I mean, the whole the Roblox thing. No, it's cool. It's cool.
Well, that's because you were being a good mom and wanted to play with your kids.
I did. But also, Maggies will tell you about how, oh gosh, being a first time mom, I mean, you're just scared of everything. And poor Maggie got the brunt of it. But
yes. Oh my God.
I said it out there. It's out loud. Okay. So now you're allowed to go ahead and tell the Minecraft story.
Okay. So Minecraft story. I was playing Minecraft on my iPad.
How old were you?
I was like, oh my God, 7 or something. And it had that like super, the super old iPad, the bouncy case in case I dropped it. And I was playing Minecraft and I was showing my mom, I was like, hey mom, look, this is so cool. I love Minecraft. And I'm like, she's looking at the screen and I'm like, look, I have to go kill these pigs so that I can get, food because, there's a hunger bar. And she's like, you're slaughtering pigs?
Violence.
They turn red when you hit them? And she lost her shit. Same thing with Undertale. I played Undertale for the first time.
Yeah.
I told her about these 2 funny skeleton guys. Are they going to scare you or are they going to give you nightmares? Are they going to give you nightmares? You should stop playing the game.
Come on.
And I'm like...
They're really nice skeletons.
They're really nice skeletons.
I get it. They're really nice skeletons. I get it now. I get it. But come on, give me a break. It was my first kid. I was doing the best I could.
No, it's fair. That's very funny. But all this to say, I mean, look how good Max turned out. So, playing video games isn't doing anything too bad. I mean, that's the same thing with my parents. You think my parents...
The only thing bad about it is this.
The cat ears.
Yeah.
That is...
Listen, it was a choice like 3 years back. And I haven't had the money to buy new ones, so...
The point is that, like, there's a whole world. I mean, the reason why I even got it started with classical music was because I fell in love with Final Fantasy music. And Final Fantasy music and Nobuo Uematsu and One Winged Angel, we should play that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play that next.
Fine.
One Winged Angel, is the final boss theme, spoilers, I guess, but is the final boss theme of Final Fantasy VII. And I was so enraptured with this theme, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. And then I would listen to these piano variations, these piano covers. And I mean, to the point that I was, the disc was starting to get worn because I fell in love with classical music inadvertently. And it led to a whole career, a journey through classical music because of video games. So it just goes to show that, there's so much. Video games are a vessel for art, a vehicle for art, just as much as opera is, just as much as orchestral music is, and just as much as, movies and TV, but probably even more so because it's an interactive. I mean, Mag's playing Minecraft at 7 and being, creativity, and Undertale is a story about love and life and like doing the right thing and what it means to be a good person and so on and so forth. I mean, these are actually, and not all of it obviously, but there's so much meaning behind this stuff. Well, I'm really glad that we got to embarrass your mother because look at this beautiful poignant message I just said. One Winged Angel is essentially, it is heavily borrowed from Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring.
Cool.
It's really cool because Uematsu, in an interview, he talked about how he basically like sort of jigsaw puzzled the piece together and was like, okay, I'm going to grab this, and this, and then it became a cohesive work, but it was very hard for him to sort of figure out the direction he wanted to go into. And this theme in particular, I don't think it was the first theme to ever use chorus in a video game in a MIDI file. And we're going to listen to the orchestral rendition of it, but it's really interesting because it's well, you'll hear what I mean. Mags, have you heard this?
I've not. I don't think so. I'm not a big Final Fantasy.
Oh, you will be. We're gonna change that. So same lyrics as Carmina Burana. Esto ansi periducida. Thoughts?
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
First of all, I could not even... I got so geeky that I started analyzing mixed meter. I started analyzing all of the themes. I started analyzing the different colors and the textures. And then I started just wondering about the composer. And how in the world, in the end, does something like this fit into a game where there's constant variable, and how does that work? It seems so sort of, yes, there's lots of different sections, but I mean, there's no way of knowing how long something needs to be. I have no idea how that would work, but I am completely fascinated with the colors he chose, the mixed meters he chose, the use of voice when he used it. I started wondering, is this actually Latin? I don't actually know. I don't speak Latin, but it sounds like Latin. It just, to me, it is astounding. I would never imagine that I would find something like this. And then, of course, I wanted to know what movies he wrote for.
So Uematsu's written for so many video games, and you know that he's self-taught, and that's the most incredible thing. Did you know there is an opera scene in Final Fantasy VI? So this was Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VI, there's an opera scene called Draco and Maria, where the heroes have to pretend to be in an opera, and it literally basically takes place in Lucia. Like there's a scene with a balcony, which is straight out of Trovatore. There is a quartet scene, a trio that reminds me so much of Der Rosenkavalier, that, you know, where they say, "Oh, goodbye, forever, goodbye." There's a moment where the tenor comes in in and it ruins the banquet. And this is all like with an opera within an opera, like I Pagliacci, where it's essentially, you know, the drama's happening. Then all of a sudden, a giant octopus comes down and you have to fight him on the lip of the stage. And
I mean, as could happen.
As one does.
As one might.
The thing about this is that, like, you know, One-Winged Angel literally is the ultimate form, spoilers, I suppose, but the ultimate form of Sephiroth. Sephiroth being one of the big bads of the video game lexicon. Sephiroth is the Darth Vader of video games. And in One-Winged Angel, we have a previous form called Bizarro Sephiroth, which is, you know, a prog rock battle theme. And then all of a sudden, you fight that, you defeat him, and then all of a sudden, you see the sky. And here comes a six-winged angel with torso naked from the chest up, huge white ponytail, throwing giant flaming meteors at you, and you're basically fighting against, and this is the theme of the games, is basically fighting against God. And this is the theme that plays to signify that sort of ultimate evil. I mean, Dancing Mad is from Final Fantasy VI. It's a 20-minute organ concerto. The quote is that, like, basically it's if Michelangelo were to write the Sistine Chapel with I forget what the quote is, but with crayons, because of the limitations of the hardware at the time and how advanced it was for that time. I mean, I could play you a million different tracks from Final Fantasy that all have this sort of ethos and pathos to them, and they're all just so magnificent.
I mean, I have to admit that I literally went and looked him up so that I could see what he's written while I was listening to it. It's astounding. And how do you do this when you're self-taught?
I don't know.
That is utter genius.
I don't know.
That's astounding to me.
I mean, Mags, does this make you want to play a Final Fantasy? You can say
yes.
Okay.
Because as soon as I listened to it, I was like, okay, I know where this is from. This is Sephiroth's whole thing. I know Sephiroth. At the start, I was trying not to laugh because that start of the song is used in a lot of memes in history. So I was like, oh, it's this, and I'm like, it's gonna get better, I'm gonna get my mind off of it. But I talked to my friends about Final Fantasy music before, and they're very much into Final Fantasy. I know, like, next to nothing about it. And I was like, this sounds like a waltz halfway through, like, a little bit. And they were like, yeah, Final Fantasy themes does that. Like, they do that. They do a lot of switches in the music, like, just randomly. And I'm like, I don't know if it probably has some sort of significance to what's happening in the game. I'm going to guess. But I think that switch is just so, like, cool and on theme. And, like, I don't know. I really liked it. I thought it was really cool.
It's so funny that for your generation, this is a meme, because for my generation as a core millennial who, like, I think I was probably 10 or so. No, I can't remember how old I was in 1990. It doesn't matter. But I was young. And for me, it was like such a moment of discovery and an unravel. I mean, this is all I had. All we had was the PlayStation, and you know, we had Super Nintendo by now, and it was this, like, I remember it was a magical moment where I had to stop playing, and I was like, Mom, you don't understand, like, this is like a big deal, and with the technology at the time and having to restart the whole fight, and it was like the fight of my young life, and it's crazy now at my age and having experienced so many games and have gaming have been a cornerstone of my life since I was 7. It's incredible to, you know, share this music with two different generations and be in the middle and be like, wait, there's so much here you need to play and hear. That's exciting for me. I'd like to keep this train rolling and pivot to a game that is a meme for my channel, because I feature it basically every time I do one of these. But I discovered a game series called Ace Combat. The first like probably 4 months that I started this channel, and I was really judgmental about it because I was like, this is about fighter planes, this is kind of dumb, like, it's going to be this metallic sort of prog rock sound that I'm probably not going to be into. And needless to say, I was completely and utterly blown away. There are liturgical writing in this, modern oratorio, there is incredible chorus, there is elements of rock, but I was really, really, really just so completely bowled over by this, to the point that in this video, I had nothing to say about it, and I couldn't. And this is the Unsung War from Ace Combat 5, the Unsung War. And when I tell you that I played this just a couple months ago. I had got a PlayStation 2 and I hooked it up, and I tell you, I cried. There's a thing that happens before this moment, and in this particular moment, I'm giving you context just for the sake of it, but you have to destroy a satellite that is essentially going to shoot, I think, a nuclear bomb, or I can't remember. Ace Combat's all about anti-war, even though you're essentially, you're a fighter pilot and you're shooting down things and whatever. And right before this, there's a thing called the tunnel run, where you literally have like 2 feet in either direction. Above, down, left, and right is all death, and you have to navigate the tunnel run. And it's incredibly stressful. And Christine, I tell you, I swear to God, it reminded me of pre-show jitters. My hands went numb. My stomach started to hurt because I was doing it. I'd done it like 15, 20 times. And I was like, oh my God, I know that right after this, I get to hear one of my favorite songs. And I literally had to take a break because my body was so tense from having to navigate, that delicate precision, especially when singing high notes and stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't fully understand this, but I was like, whoa, this is wild. I've not experienced this since performing last. And then to have that catharsis to this song, and I'm just gonna let this one play out for you, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, and it's okay if you don't, but I think you will.
a couple of minutes in, all I could think was the word immersive kept sort of coming to my head. And I am actually getting ready to go and do a Mahler 8 symphony in like 2 weeks. And I was working on it for 2 hours this afternoon. My poor dog is deaf, but that's okay. But but there's something kind of reminiscent that there are these epic, it's a monstrous undertaking, huge orchestration, the organ, 1,000 voices, supposed to be symphony of 1,000, right? So this incredible sound, but there was something about this that made me feel like I was sitting in the middle of a circle of all of this noise. And it just surrounds you the way that this is put together. You mentioned the word liturgical. At one point, I really took notice of harps being added, and they were very prominent. And it was, to me, more than liturgical, it was celestial. And in a way, it sort of just began to lift up, which was kind of amazing to me.
How about you, Mags? I doubt you've played an Ace Combat game, right?
No.
How did you perceive this piece?
Honestly, so when I listen to the stuff, I write down like a few things, but literally all I wrote down was how it was so like intense, like bang, bang, bang at some points, and then it just glides off. And then it keeps going up, and then it glides off. And then somewhere in the middle-ish end to the song, there was like the ultimate kind of like cutoff. I love when songs have that. I love it because, I don't know, it just makes the moment so much cooler, especially battles. I think that having a peak to your song like that is very, very cool and very immersive, like my mom said.
Having a place to go is really everything, isn't it? And having, I mean, I think, looping is such a common thing in video games where we have like a small motif and then it just sort of loops and loops and loops. And this one does have that, but the direction and the forward momentum of the piece is really, the drive of it is really what, even though it does slow down, especially in the middle part that Christine used to describe as celestial, because it's really like, eyes to the sky and eyes to the heavens essentially. And as we like, sort of you're playing Jesus, if you will. And there's something really magical about that. And yeah, I think, Mags, you hit the nail on the head there. And well, so Mags, obviously you're a gamer. So like, what tracks do you want to play for your mom while we have this opportunity?
Oh my God.
I have some Hollow Knight in here. I have some Portal 2 in here.
Hollow Knight, Portal. Oh my God. Okay. That's a lot. I think that my mom would love God of War.
Do you want me to play Rabe's Lament? I have that loaded up.
I think she would love it also because there's a lot of Norse mythos in it. If she ever got into that game, God help her, she's never getting out. But that Hollow Knight is great. Any Dark Souls would be also very cool.
Have you heard any of the Elden Ring DLC music?
Yes. I'm not done with the DLC. I know what happens. But I have gotten up to Mesmer so far, so I've heard a lot of it. Have
you heard Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame?
No, but like the Frenzied Flame. Yes, I have. That was the first ending I got. Not the best, but
and from Elden Ring, yeah. Okay, so there's a character in the DLC. But so should we play that, or should we play Ludwig the Holy Blade?
You two are speaking the
Hang on.
language.
I think she would like the sopranos in Ludwig. She would have something.
Yeah,
the high sopranos in Ludwig.
I think she would like that more than Midra.
But before that, should we play her Portal 2, Cara Mia Dio?
Yes.
So this is an aria, actually.
Awesome. I was guessing as much.
Yeah, Cara Mia Dio. But it's sung by Ellen McLean, and it's actually she plays a bunch of robots, and these turrets are actually singing this music. So it has a robotic quality to it, but I'm very intrigued. For me, it reminded me. Well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to. You'll hear it.
Portal is one of my favorite things like ever. I love it so much.
It's a good one. I enjoyed it. I finally played it this year, actually.
That and Half-Life. So good.
Half-Life. Did you finish Half-Life 2 by chance?
I did, and I played the VR.
Wow. Oh, you played Alex, Half-Life Alex.
Yes, Alex was so cool. The music in that game, oh my God. It was amazing.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's funny because sometimes I'd never heard this before. And in my video about it, I kind of had a laugh because I was like, wow, this is like a proper Italian art song in a random video game.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because it reminds me of Caro Mio Ben so much, which is such a common theme for us to sing as we start our training. And people,
Right.
I don't think people fully understand it because they're like, you're laughing at this. And I'm like, no, I'm not laughing at the piece. I'm laughing at the fact that it's like a direct connection to something I know intimately. So, I mean, having heard that for the first time, Christine, what's your thought process behind that? I mean, obviously it's a simple song, but like, where does the brain go when it hears that?
Well, I mean, I have to admit I went to the same exact place because we all start out singing this. And the thing that actually struck me is, as you were talking about how interesting it is that this is something that's such a simple carryover, but so representative of what we started out doing. And then I immediately went to the fact that the internet was broken because Beyonce used it a minute ago. So it's so incredible how different genres of music are just turning up everywhere. And that music is music is music is music. And it doesn't really matter how you are choosing to immerse yourself in it, whether you are watching a movie, whether you're performing it, whether you're going to a concert, whether you're playing a game. They're all immersive experiences. And so I always choose to look at music as part of an experience, not as something to listen to. So that immediately that sort of put me in the same kind of place where I was immediately thinking of a different time, a different memory, a different thing. And it's amazing to me how nostalgic anything can be, even if you've never heard it before.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, gosh, when I first heard this, it literally threw me back to the very first voice lesson I ever had, where we started up with Caro Mio Ben, and I was like, wow, like, this is incredible. This is like in one of the most famous video games of all time, Portal 2, and people are connecting to an Italian art song aria that they have no concept. Like, we're not thinking about the history of Italian art song when we listen to this, and yet there is a full, like, deep hole that someone can go down and really enrapture them. I mean, okay, I mean, Mags, I mean, for you, since you love Portal, like, and I would assume you don't have the same frame of reference as your mom and I, but like, what does this signify to you?
So before I knew what you guys just said about how that and like that kind of centric thing was like a beginning thing for you guys in like your singing and art and music journey, I thought Portal 2 and Portal were very creepy games. Cool, but very, very like, holy crap, we're in like a abandoned lab testing facility. Everyone's probably dead. What's going on? Because GLaDOS herself is, a kind of funny character, and so is Wheatley. And having those uplifting things as well as this gives a really good push-up to give like an uneasy but not horrified feeling toward the situation your character is in the game. And now with what you guys said, thinking about that plays as the main character is ascending out of the elevator and they're going to go to the real world, and they win. And that's the start of their new journey. So connecting those two things is just like a really cool tidbit that I never knew about.
Wow, that's really interesting. I never even thought about that, because so many people, when they decide to start singing, will start with this as their beginning of their journey. And what I'm sure that's coincidental and not even intentional. But the fact that, again, I think it goes back to the very beginning of this conversation, where it's like, here are things that live within a given context, and yet when we listen to them out of context, we apply all sorts of life attachment to them, and then can also then go back. And if Christine, if you were to play Portal 2, which I recommend if you like puzzles and stuff, that would take on a double meaning for you, both the personal and the in-game context. It's a very interesting conversation. Let's slow it down a little bit. So I don't know anything about this next game that I'm playing for you. This is a VR game. It's called Our First Singing, from a game called So Let Us Melt. It's quite the journey, isn't it?
The beginning of it, it was interesting because it sounded like, I'm such a dork. It sounded like the beginning of the Bach Uno Ave Maria.
Oh,
And even if you take all of the ups and downs, it even did the same kind of thing with the melody.
Oh my God,
and
you're right. You made me think about that.
It got to the point where I was in the middle of it, and then it was very Philip Glass.
Yes.
And it was,
I just thought that.
the juxtaposition of those two things was amazing. It wrote down returning home, ancestral, welcome. And it was interesting because by the time I got to the finding yourself, true self, and then I wrote in the end, acceptance and peace.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is that I have no idea if any of those things are right, but
I don't either, but that's what I got from it.
That's the thing, though. It's like those themes are all in there. And I think about this also in term when it comes to opera or symphonic writing, is that like ultimately what matters is that someone comes away with, I mean, who knows if it's, you know, if someone listens to Elektra, who knows what they actually like take away from it, right? It's interesting how music allows us to kind of just whatever we feel is right. There's not really a wrong per se, is there?
No, I don't think so. And I mean, I say the same thing, but in a slightly different way. If someone leaves the theater feeling something, whether they liked it or hate it, or they're angry about it, or they loved it, or they are sobbing and they can't stop, or they're laughing, it doesn't make a difference as long as they have felt something. Then the music has done its job. We have done our job. And so to be able to look at these things and listen to them outside of the context of the game, you know, it is really quite remarkable. I have to tell you, I never would have thought to do this. So I'm really grateful to you to have the opportunity to do this.
Well, I told you were on my list.
I'm sorry it took this long.
No, but because I felt like it's important, and being open-minded and having curiosity is something that is shockingly hard to sometimes, and because we have so many preconceived notions, and even musicians have preconceived notions. But you know, I think you're a very open-minded person, and I've known that since I met you in 2014. By the way, it's been 10 years. Surprise!
Oh my gosh,
Mags, what do you make of that? I mean, we just expounded on it from a musical perspective, but you know, what's your thoughts on that piece?
So I've heard of So Let Us Melt.
You have. Okay, you know more about it than I do.
I don't know the whole whatever story goes on in it. I just know the premise. That you're kind of like I don't know if you're a full robot or something, but you're supposed to get the planet ready for the sleeping citizens of that world. And the robots communicate by singing to each other, and they sing life into the ground, and plants sprout and stuff like that. So, yeah, you were on point, Mom.
yay!
It's special. It's a gift.
And the cover of it reminded me of Outer Wilds, and I love that game. But the mood of the song to me felt like some kind of like exploration. Knowing the little context I do, it feels like your first time exploring that world. I don't know if it is the first time the character's exploring the world, but it feels like, wow, this is all new. This is what I'm supposed to do now. It's like a new birth almost.
Yeah.
And in that birth, there's curiosity and almost like a divinity in the sense of new, if that makes sense at all.
It does, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what I got.
This would be one of my desert island pieces. I was like, well, what would be very emotional? Especially in the middle section, there's quite a cathartic release when it starts to really ramp up. And you get a lot, and it's also interesting because the robot thing, because you hear that synthetic sound, and I was like, what is this? And that's really cool. But the middle section of it is so... it's visceral, and it kind of leaves you sort of speechless, doesn't it? The way that Jessica really like leans into these really big chords that make you feel like you're an ant in a cog in a wheel or something. And I find it very somber, even though it's uplifting at the same time. Mags, what would you like to listen to?
I feel like Hollow Knight would be pretty cool.
Which Hollow Knight track? Do you have one in particular?
Ooh.
I had brought up Pure Vessel, but
Pure Vessel is great. I think that would be really good for the thing we're going at right now.
not exactly an enthusiastic piece, is it?
No.
It started immediately, and I wrote down Bach. And there's something like old magic-y sounding about it.
There's obviously a somber, like deeply unsettled, almost like a loss of direction that it feels to me. Like,
Wandering.
Especially, and I think because we repeat da da ya da 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 da. I mean, the motivic writing in that's really interesting because it sustains it for the whole, almost 3 minutes of it's just that. I also think the wandering chorus is really interesting too. It's sort of doubling with with that movement. But it's interesting. I mean, Mags. So I've played Hollow Knight, but I played it in 2018. So have you played it recently?
Yes.
I feel like okay. So you know the context super well, I would assume.
Yes.
Could
Could yap about Hollow Knight forever and ever and ever.
Please do.
I love Hollow Knight. It is one of my favorite. I think, to me, Hollow Knight's music is kind of like one of the gods of motifs in video game sense, because in the middle we heard a little bit from one of the classic wandering themes in the first part of the game, and in the very end we get the a shorter and sadder version of the end to a fight, the little sound, the da 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 thing at the very end with the piano. If you know the other music, it becomes you don't even have to play the game. It just becomes so much more significant to you. If you know the lore of the game, it's even sadder to listen to, because it's all about this. I don't remember exactly how it works, but we're fighting almost like a memory
of ourselves, right?
Not ourselves. It's the memory of the one that's chained up. And and they weren't the right one for the job. They weren't supposed to be sealed up. They weren't correct, and they failed while they were chained up because the infection got out. And this is just the melancholy of someone being trained so hard to be something they're not, and the folly of death in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you really hear that, and I think it's interesting too that the piano is like that one lone voice that's like, man, I almost like I wish that I had, I wish I could have done it, and that regret that we all feel at one point or another in our lives, where it's like, shoot.
And what is so beautiful about that? This character never speaks. No dialogue, not even in the whatever bug language they speak. Nothing. Never. Because they can't speak. They can't speak. They have no mouth to tell them, I am not the right person. This is not me. But I'm still going to keep going because there's no choice. I have no choice.
But music can speak sometimes for those who have
That's
no words.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Just to clarify, that's not the Hollow Knight. The Hollow Knight does not speak. Are we talking about the seal?
We are the true Hollow Knight because we were supposed to be in there.
Okay.
Because we are devoid of emotion. We are devoid of everything. So we are supposed to be chained up. So the wrong one got to the top and was selected.
This game again. It's been. I played it.
We got again?
It's played it in Switzerland, and I don't remember anything. It's like just.
It is so excellent. It is. I love the game so much.
All right, we're gonna do The Only Thing They Fear Is You from Doom. It's so funny, Christine. I feel like Max is like a large percentage of my demographic that watches my videos. And I feel like
I told my friend that I'm in a video with you today, and they were like, "Oh my god, really? I know that guy. I know Marco Meatball."
Really?
Yeah.
That means I get into conflicts on the internet with 18-year-olds.
That's all right. I get into conflicts at home with 18-year-olds, so we're in good shape. But you're getting paid for it, and I'm not.
That generation loves video game music.
I feel like the newer generations are getting so much more sentimental and thoughtful about the stuff they're playing.
I think so too. It's crazy how your generation, I feel like, grew up with Undertale, or Undertale is like your generation, I think, and it's. Do you like Omori?
I tried to get into Omori. I know it's Undertale-esque, but I just never really got into it.
Your generation is like, play Omori, and I'm like, we're not gonna.
Yeah.
All right. The Only Thing They Fear Is You. Thoughts?
Well, I need a nap.
Go to sleep.
Oh my God. Just like, you just don't get a break from the push of adrenaline. You don't even need the game in front of you. Between whatever is happening in front of you and the fact that the music is literally pushing and raising your adrenaline before you even do anything. I mean, that's just...
Do you think that there's some analogous, like some comparison between that kind of music and Wagner? Like, is there a correlation, you think? Why are so many opera singers metalheads that I've interacted with several, and they always end up being metalheads?
Look, I mean, it's because it's cool. I laugh because I say things like that. I'm like, opera's metal. It really is. Like, look, you walk in and the kind of thing that I can't explain to people, and I get to do the really cool, like, really loud stuff. I mean, to walk out there, I feel really naked if I have to sing with an orchestra of 40 people. If there's not 100 people on stage with me, I'm like, I am scared. I don't feel supported. There's something astounding being in front of that. And what we do is acoustic, right? So people, to this day, people walk up to me and go, what do you mean you don't use mics? And I'm like, y'all, that's the freaking magic. You sit in front of this and it's visceral and your body vibrates and it's from acoustic sound. That is freaking awesome. But it's the same kind of thing to me. That's like, it's just like, go back to Mahler 8. That first chord on the organ and then that wall of sound hits you and knocks you backwards. It is freaking amazing. And that's the same kind of thing that this does, right? It's just adrenaline driving, astounding, blood pumping awesomeness.
How much do you think emotion and music are connected?
Oh my God. If they're not, we're doing it wrong. It's designed to evoke a reaction, whether it is a happy reaction, a bad reaction, an excited reaction, a relaxed reaction, whatever it is, it's designed to evoke a reaction. So this is designed to put you in a frame of mind to play this part of the game. I can go the complete opposite direction, talk about music for elevators. That's designed to keep you, or you go to the grocery store, they're playing my damn music in the grocery store now. So I go in there and I'm like, yeah, because I'm old. But it is designed to put you in a frame of mind to buy things. It's a question of how do you choose to use music to enhance an experience? Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't go into it'd be amazing if you went to the grocery store and this was playing.
I mean, listen, I'd walk out, I'd be broke. Where is your flax? Yeah!
Flaxseed. And Mags, I mean, for you, like, obviously you and I understand. I mean, at this point, I feel like this song is sort of not a musical meme, but it's sort of like
it's just kind of a well-known. Yeah,
it's like Bury the Light. It's the same.
Yeah.
Listening to it, maybe with not with fresh ears, but certainly with different ears. I mean, what's your sort of perspective on this piece as a piece that's like super well known in the video game lexicon of the video game?
Well, first of all, this is the game my mom was worried about that she didn't know about. This was the evil Minecraft, but it was actually evil.
It is. It's true. You rip and tear.
It is, rip and tear. I don't know, because I never listened and sat to listen to this song in full. I've only heard, little snippets, because, whatever, do meme over here, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, you are in there, and you are like, I can take on the fucking sun right now. Like, I am a god. I am in here, and I am going to do whatever the hell I want. And it's so, like blood pumping and just the adrenaline. I feel like that definitely had something to do with the spread of it in the community because of how just, like, straight metal it was. And also the connection between metal and, like people who, like, do opera and stuff. I feel like they're both so similar in ways that we don't really recognize. Like, metal is just, it's so heavy. And opera is so heavy. And in a lot of the things that I've listened to, I mean, Wagner-wise, I'm mostly, biased
You're
about it.
privy to a very specific genre.
It's
You've been to a lot of live performances too,
Yeah.
so you get the understanding of that visceral thing that happens.
yeah, because like almost all the performances I've been to, Wagner or not, are like so guttural. Like, oh my god, I know what's happening here. I don't understand what they're saying, but it's like so. This makes me like ill, kind of a thing, but like in a good way. And
Opera, it makes you ill in a good way.
it makes me ill. And
Hashtag opera.
I find the correlation between the amount of weight that each music like form of music has to it just so like cool.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I mean, I think that that's why I've always been drawn to music in general, but also when a lot of the things that I do is correlate classical music to video game music, and both legitimizing both in their own sort of worlds that need to be legitimized, and yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, even singing, Act 3 of Tosca or Act 1 of the Tosca duet, the love duet, like ascending to a high B flat, the visceralness and the nerves and all that stuff, and like just opening your mouth and carrying that, and then trying to hit the back of a theater and hoping that someone is like, whoa, like that's really high, or like, oh my god, like again, that column of sound that hits an audience in the face. I think that this is absolutely hand in hand with that, and the visceral, raw, non-stop, constantly changing, but always never know. And what I really like about this piece is that we don't really ever know where it's going to go. It doesn't drop a beat like where we think it's going to go, or where we instinctually feel it's going to go.
I wrote down desperate for resolution.
That's funny.
Just like the whole last
like
2
fits
minutes.
into it.
Yeah, because it's just continuous.
Yeah. Just like how, demons are just in waves, just keep coming at you.
Yeah, the demons continue to come.
Yeah.
You continue to rip and tear them to shreds. And here we are. I mean, we've climbed a mountain. There's one more piece to climb. But my thought to you, Christine, is like, my question really, where are you now in terms of, here we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, with one more on the way, 12 pieces. A lot of these have been classically based, but what's your thought process on video games and video game music now, considering where we were maybe 6 months ago, you know what I mean? Or when we first started our conversation about coming on board.
The expansiveness of what video game music can be now. I am so old. I wear it like a badge, man. I'm so excited to have gotten to 55, but yeah. I started when, we were still, I played Atari, for Christ's sake. I feel like a winner. I'm vintage AF, which is awesome. But what I started with in the grand scheme of what video game music was to the expansive epicness of what it is now and the huge variety of what it can be. It can be as, simple and basic and peaceful as, an acoustic guitar, or it could be what we just heard, or it could be 2,000 people on stage, with a huge symphonic orchestra and a chorus. We were back with that chorus and all of that amazing music. I actually wrote down I'm sure you've been through this already, but if anyone who watches you and loves that kind of big choral music, if Carmina Burana is playing anywhere near them, they need to go there and see it live, because
It's a must, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Also, to understand that there are composers that are specifically writing for this genre that are not really crossing genres. I think that it's very, very clear and very often that we find people are writing in a way that is expansive and epic. And, a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing, I immediately, like I said, I went and I checked. I'm like, well, what movie music have they written? Because that is the kind of thing that I expect to find on a soundtrack. And here we are. So,
Right.
You're in the middle of your own movie when you're doing these things, and it's your soundtrack, which is awesome.
One of the things that I sort of lamented a lot when I was in the industry was that I felt like there weren't a lot of modern composers, or if there were, they weren't necessarily writing music that I would want to sing. And one of the most interesting things about really diving into, and I still have a lot to learn myself, just the sheer amount of music that exists in this medium. I mean, we're talking 40 years, and like so many composers. Star Wars Outlaws just came out that has a fully scored piece that the Star Wars sound, or Astrobot came out on the PlayStation. It has this beautiful like wide variety. Anyway, point is that there's literally just so much music, and what I came to realize is that a lot of the true melodic composers are in the world of video games. And I know that there are plenty of talented composers in the world of classical music and opera, of course, but I'm actually blown away by the sheer capacity for composition in video games, and only imagining what it would be like if someone sat down. And obviously there's a skill set that was required to write for the voice and so on and so forth, but like I'm just imagining the breadth of possibility for these people to start writing operas or start, you know what I mean? And there's a real possibility that it should happen.
I mean, but look at this. I mean, Janine Tazari's wrote Grounded. She wrote Blue. She wrote Caroline or Change. I mean, so she's somebody who's already crossing genres. How far of a leap is it from here to there? It's just making a decision to do something new. I would love to see some of this. In classical music, if we stagnate, we die, right? And if you look at how opera started, way back when, and, 15 whatever, then we started to see these things. If you looked at that to where we are today, that doesn't look anything like where it started. So why shouldn't we go from today and make a leap into something that is not where we started? That's growth. That's continuing to create. And it's the expansion of art. What is cooler than putting two kinds of things together? Two great tastes that taste great together. I mean, let's do it.
I think there's a fear. It's interesting. I remember I saw something on Facebook where someone was like, I want to program video game music, but I don't know how the audience is going to react because it's not my typical audience. And I'm like, you have no idea how much people will come to your opera house or your symphony if you program video game music. You have no clue.
Absolutely.
But I think the problem is the delineation, is that we must label things. And if we would just stop doing that.
But what really must we? Because the thing is music. And I think that balance is key, right? If you are programming a season, program a season that you have a core audience. You know what your core audience likes. Great. Give your core audience some of what it likes. And when they trust you, because you're giving them some of what they like, then they will trust you to expand what they have understood before. This is new. I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to come and see it. I want you to come and hear this. You will be surprised. Trust me. As long as there is a balance, but the game is to continually offer something that is a bit of a stretch. And this is not that much of a stretch.
Not really.
It's just
everything
not.
I told you is adjacent. Yeah.
I mean, it totally is.
But then the thing is that then you start programming this with regular stuff, and all of a sudden, I mean, what's the difference between Nostalgia and Phantasm and the Verdi Requiem and Carmina Burana? Nothing. So why don't you program it on the first half of a concert, and then in the second half you do Carmina Burana, or program Ludwig the Holy Blade, which you're about to listen to, put those back to back,
and just let it both live,
and then just mix and match it. What's the problem?
Listen, I mean, how many symphony orchestras right now? I'm in Detroit, in case you didn't see it. And so Detroit Symphony is our orchestra here, and they're amazing, but their programming is astounding. And I am a classical musician, and I will not lie to you. I laughed so hard because one of the mailers came out and I grabbed it and I went, "You guys, Goonies, we're going!" I just got so excited because they were playing movie music, and they have a series that they do this, and they do operas, and they do symphonies, and they do new works, and they have an entire jazz series, and. So what is to stop a symphony orchestra from setting up a series of this music? Expand your audience and give your existing audience a chance to learn something new.
Yeah. I went to a concert in DC and the conductor said, "We came to you, now come to us." And that made me cringe a little bit because I was like, that's not, you want to, it was all video game music and it was like a wonderful concert. And I was like, why don't you, yes.
Oh, I see. I didn't know what it was. That's,
it's a great gateway, but it shouldn't be about coming to the regular programming. It should be about celebrating the programming that exists and, you know?
Yes, and. But everything I just said, it is absolutely something to be celebrated. I am sitting here at the end of this having no idea what I was about to walk into, and I am so jazzed by it, I can't even tell you. But at the same time, this is an expansion of what I already love, right? So if someone loves this music and they have an opportunity to go and try something else and they liked it, that's totally cool. But I like the way that you were saying, right, so let's do something on the first half of the program and then give them something that is more traditional on the second half, but relatable to what just happened. There's your balance. Balance doesn't have to be you have, 10 things and 5 of them have to be new and 5 of them have to be old. That's not how it has to work. But if you offer somebody a chance to get excited about the thing that they know, and they also happen to get to hear something that they didn't realize was something they liked, cool.
Right.
That's how you get them to come back.
And it's expansive. Let's
Exactly.
listen to Ludwig the Holy Blade. I'm very excited. It is one of my favorite pieces of video game music of all time. I love it to death.
It's
and
amazing.
I'm very excited for you to hear it. Save the best for last. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God. Oh, so great. So great. I mean, what is it? Can you imagine being in the middle of that recording session?
Right?
Just like, things were falling off the walls.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about that piece in particular is that there are so many little hints. What do you think that piece, well, obviously you know the name of the title, but like, what do you think that piece is about?
To me, I mean, I'm also looking at this sort of picture and the time period.
That's fine.
To me, I almost thought of one of the Tudor queens being marched to her execution.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, Ludwig the Holy Blade was supposed to heal this broken world. And instead, Ludwig became a part of the broken world. And so he becomes this amalgamation of horse and man. And you have to fight him, and he's grotesque and bloody and violent and visceral. And it's interesting because there are a couple different things in the instrumentation here. There's at one point there's the trombones that literally it sounds like a horse neighing, and there is
I did hear that actually.
Yeah, and then the chorus. I also like how when we start the second phase, Ludwig the Accursed, there's that high upper register soprano there, and that it's interesting because it's actually so incredibly evocative of. Now I've listened to this piece a lot, and it's one of my favorite pieces of all time. But there's in the upper register, because it's in the upper register like that, you get this real crunch, and it has this feeling of decay as it comes down. As it sort of builds into this unruly and unholy waltz. It's a very powerful.
The waltz
piece.
I did notice it. To me, it just felt sort of depraved. And in terms of what you were saying about the way it was coming down in decay, the minute you said listen to the soprano line, it wasn't just that it was high and that it was sort of a lot of half steps and very crunchy and chromatic. It also was the way that they were singing. And they were very much doing this with straight tone and sliding, and it wasn't always quite in the center of the pitch, which sounded intentional. If that was you, I'm sorry, everybody. But it sounded like it was really intentional. So it created a sound, not, I don't want to say it wasn't singing, but it was more about creating an effect.
Soundscape.
A soundscape, exactly that. Very cool. I love it.
Max, for you, I mean, of course, this is another one that you've heard a million times, obviously, but like, have you sat down and listened to that whole piece from start to finish?
I have a couple times because my friends are very big on this song. They love Bloodborne, and they're urging me to play, and I'm like, I really want to, but I can't. Me and my friends call it the waltz of, like, death. Like, that is what we call the second part of it. Like a waltz of death. I would say, we were going to say rot, but then Elden Ring came out, and we can overlap. We can't overlap that. But, oh my god, it's just so chaotic, and, like, knowing the boss battle, it's so grotesque and disgusting in the way it presents itself, yet it's so neatly grotesque. You know? I don't know, you like...
It's very proper.
Yeah.
Structurally.
Yeah, it's so structurally, but it's like it's falling apart. Almost.
It's a really great way to put it. I mean, it's a crazy thing, you know, because, listen, I mean, 8 years, that one recording on YouTube, 17 million views. And the thing is, like, yes, obviously there's a ravenous fan base over this music, but I'm telling you right now, if you put this on a concert, you will sell out an entire concert hall. And furthermore, this is indicating to me that there is a potential hunger. Now, granted, the context is everything with this, and like the association, this is a very difficult game. It's a very challenging experience. The aesthetic, it's got a Victorian sort of, oh God. What's the name? Oh, man. Oh, God.
Gothic? Victorian Gothic?
Edwardian.
Lovecraftian vibe to it. There's you know, we dive into the cosmos, and you know, it's a very complex. But 17 million people in 8 years, to me, that indicates that there is a hunger, there is a desire to connect with that sound, and that sound is not obsolete. Opera is not obsolete. Classical music is not obsolete, because 17 million people in 8 years want this.
Thing about it is, this is marketed correctly. We have some things to learn from the video game music folk.
So here we are. We're at the end of our journey, and I just, thank you both for, Mags, thanks for giving your mom a little bit of a push, and Christine, thanks for, trusting me to guide you through this, and it's been such a pleasure to see you again, and also to reconnect on this, because I feel like now you are a voice in the industry, and you're an important part of the history of opera, and I know that you've worked so hard to be there and to do that, and for me it was a great pleasure to have someone of your stature, but also obviously because I know you and your personhood, obviously, but to have you listen to this, because it's important. The more people with influence that can listen to this, it's kind of, it's the same way with this, like, it's funny, sometimes people in the industry are like, oh, you have influence, and I'm like, well, I guess. But, it goes both ways. And you also have so much influence to now spread the good word and spread the gospel.
Yes, well, as I said to you earlier, just having a conversation with you about all of this has upped my street cred immensely. But truly, this is my pleasure. I love all kinds of music. And I knew I was going to enjoy this. I just didn't know how much. So thank you so much for all of this. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And hopefully in some weird way this brings you guys closer too, even though I'm sure you have a great relationship. But now it's not just about Roblox.
Yes. And now I get to show her the Dark Souls lore.
Exactly.
That'll be a fun week sit down.
It's all Wagnerian.
It is all Wagnerian. Everyone's related and everyone's sad and everyone's dying.
Perfect. That is, if that's not operatic, I don't know what the hell is.
Exactly. So thank you everybody for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thanks a ton, and we'll talk to you soon, all right? See you everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.